I would first like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on stolen lands. And I also want to acknowledge the incredible solidarity that we've received from First Nations people all across this continent. Our communities are in need, and First Nations people have always stood with us, and they certainly are excelling now on that. May we continue to resist together, and may we continue to rise together until our peoples are free. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Give yourself a big round of applause. It's so beautiful to see you all. So tonight I'm going to be telling you a couple of stories, and as I attempt to translate my soul into you in words of a foreign language, some emotions might come up, and so I thank you in advance for holding space for that. My hands clasp the tree trunk behind me. Fingernails are digging into the hard wood. Foreign entities are flying high above me, and when I dare to look up, I see brilliant explosions of orange and yellow, followed by earth-shattering sounds. I reach for my friend nearby, and he holds my arm, and he tells me to just breathe. It'll be over before you know it. Complete silence, and then chaos follows. There's a cacophony of sounds as everyone is frantically calling their families, checking up on them. Where did that rocket land? Where did it come from? Why is this happening to us? And the minutes turn into hours as we wait for information, and we finally realize that the rockets came from Tel Aviv. And they were actually targeting a gathering of Iranian delegates in the Damascus castle. So then a couple moments later, we're back in the bar, and I glance at the clock, and it's 4 a.m. on a Friday. It's actually prime time for the underground Damascus techno scene, which does exist. And then suddenly we're back dancing and drinking, and everything is fine. And the DJ swiftly announces that we're not going to get these sons of ruin our night. And so we continue to drink, and we drink to life, we drink to death, and we drink to everything that's in between, even though it might be not very long. So this was one of many terrifying but life-altering experiences that I had when I visited my homeland, Syria, last year, after 10 years of being in this beautiful yet foreign land to me. I was born in Damascus, and I was raised like every good Christian Middle Eastern girl. I went to church, went to choir, went to piano practice. But then when I was a teenager, I found myself climbing on rooftops and smoking stolen cigarettes. When the war hit, we were 13 to 15, and we started to drink, I guess. And we took vodka shots for every bomb that we heard, and we got wasted. After that, we had to move. We were forced to leave, and we came here. And I went to a Catholic school, and I was the only brown person around, and I had no idea what the hell was going on, but I knew that something was a bit off. And I lost my identity for a long time. The thought of Syria just brought misery to my brain, and I didn't really know what I would do with it. But my destiny was as persistent as my mum on laundry day, and it didn't leave me alone. And so here we are. But from a very young age, I know that as Syrian people, our struggle was connected with the Palestinian cause. I remember wearing my kufiya very proudly walking in the street. I remember stepping on the Israeli flag that they put on the streets in old Damascus, people spitting on it and doing all the shit. Good job. We all did it. And I remember basically singing the Palestinian anthem and waving that flag, as high as we were waving the Syrian flag. I knew that our struggle was the same, but what I didn't realize was actually Syria was not my homeland at all. My family had hidden a lot of our family history from me for my own safety, so you can imagine how I felt when I realized that I didn't have the right of return to our homeland. Don't really need to mention where that is. I think you know, and you know why I don't have a right of return. But before I get into that, I want to tell you what happened when I took a bus from Damascus to Amman in Jordan. I'm so completely and utterly alone. Sandy mountains cover the land behind me, littered with tents and camels. The promised land lies straight ahead of me, a blurry vision becoming clearer on a sunny horizon. My heartbeat quickens. My blood thickens. Less than 100 meters away, this is the closest I've ever been. I chose to walk the narrow end of the sea because I knew that that is the closest that I'll ever be. I can almost touch the soil. I can almost smell the olive trees. I breathe deep and I feel the coarse sand under my feet. There's mountains upon mountains of salt, as far as the eye can see. It crystallizes on the shore, inexplicably beautiful shapes of pink and white. Near the water, it dissolves and disintegrates into sparkling ecstasy. I can totally just swim across right now, no one's going to see me. I'm a good diver, and if I get caught, I'll just say I got lost, I went too far, I'm sorry. But it's so deathly quiet. Why is it so damn quiet? Where are the children of the deserts and their little pet goats? Where are the farmers and the fishermen and the mothers and the daughters kneading the bread and preparing the fire? Where are the warplanes and the tanks? Where are the militaries of the great Arab nations that have filled my damn brain with so much talk and broken promises? There's nothing to see here but a dark cloud that hovers over the horizon to the west. I can hear the echoes of children screaming from under the rubble over Gaza. It smells like a big bag of wet sand and salt. The closer I got to the water, the stickier it felt, the harder it became for me to breathe. I allow my body to near the edge of the water, but it's so still and the salt grains are getting finer. There is not a ripple to be felt. The silence is deafening. Salt enters my eyes and the sun starts to peek from behind the clouds. And there's a beautiful light that's reflecting off the turquoise water, but I can't see it. All I see is red. I weep and I weep. My grief shatters that deafening silence. And my cries spread like wildfire across the sea, and it brings life to that dead sea. With every tear, there's an unbearable pain that is traveling through my spine as little grains of salt are making their way into my mouth and my nostrils, and it seems like every bit of my body is just inhaling this salt. I tried to rub it off, but it's just going deeper. I tried to wash it away, but the only water to wash it away is the tears, which are also salty, so I'm not doing so good. And then I start laughing. I'm just frantically laughing like a mad woman in the middle of that sea. There is no way out. The water's so salty, I can't even drown if I wanted to. A deep sea forces me afloat. A breathing corpse. The weight of the mountains all around me is resting right on my shoulders. I imagine what lies beyond those dusty mountains. Olive trees and pomegranates, lemon fields and healing oils, I can just smell them from here. Dreams of stolen lands, stolen memories, stolen futures. My kin, my ancestry, and my destiny are just right in reach, but they're on the opposite side of the city. The only thing standing between us are two soldiers, and I can see them just over there, and they're getting a little bit too interested in me. And their blood is running cold in my veins. They're upstanding in attention, ready to fire, they're ready to murder. I just dare to step a little bit closer. I'm alone in a soul sinkhole that swallows me whole, deeper and deeper, until I cannot feel anymore. If you want to copy that, it's not the name. This piece was called The Deathbed of Salt, and I wrote it when I swam in the Dead Sea for the first time, and that was on the 10th of October, right after it started. So, to finish up, I want to go back and tell you about what happened to the journey of finding my ancestry. I dug pretty damn deep. I went to every city I knew there was someone with my last name in it in Syria. Sometimes I would cross the border of the Syrian army and then the border of the Free Army and then the border of whatever army to get, to the town, which is ridiculous. But I got there. And I found out some things that maybe I could have lived without. But I found out I was a 4th generation refugee, and my family just did not want me to know that, because they just didn't want me to think, that I didn't belong anywhere. And I found out that my great-grandfather was actually an Armenian refugee who escaped from the genocide. He took the last train from Adana and ended up in Aleppo. He was 4 years old. He got off the train station, couldn't speak a word of Arabic, and this farmer just picked him up and raised him. And he basically married his daughter. And then they had my grandmother. My other great-grandfather, it's a nice story. My other great-grandfather escaped from another area of Syria, Skanderon, which is now under the Turkish rule. He went down to Latakia. And now I know why my ID card says that I'm from Latakia, not Damascus, where I was born. So that was a good mystery. But the most important thing I found out was that actually I've come from a really long line of Palestinian resistance fighters. And my history is really just want to mention one of them. Her name is Teresa Helesa, and it was her 3rd death anniversary a few weeks ago. She actually abducted an Israeli plane in exchange of hostages, spent 15 years in Israeli prison. But I am proud of her, and I am proud to be here. So, the most interesting part of my story is that it's not interesting at all. Actually, pretty much every second person you meet from that place, from that area of the world, has a pretty similar story to tell. Our peoples have gone through unspeakable horrors in the past century, and as the dirty tentacles of Western colonization are digging their way deeper and deeper into our flesh, we've always fought back with everything that we had, and sometimes that was very little. I realized last year that it is my honor and my duty to stand on the shoulders of my ancestors and the thousands of martyrs who have sacrificed their lives for our liberation and for justice and freedom for all of us. Love is the deepest form of resistance to me. And now more than ever, we must stand together. In the face of fascism and colonization, in the face of racism and false news, may I add, we must continue to call for a ceasefire. We must continue to ask to tear down that wall and end that ridiculous apartheid. We have to fight to end the occupation and to free Palestine once and for all.